Hey, this is Christian Buckley with CollabTalk.
Hey, hi, this is Michal Sobotkiewicz from KanBo.
And we're talking about the card-based interface. And it's something that is, it's not brand new. It's relatively new that's out there. I think some organizations are familiar with it. Maybe that their first experience was when Microsoft developed Delve. And of course, there were card-based interface prior to Delve being out there and launched. But that's actually something that, that KanBo, so your product, your company has spent time in developing for a number of years. What's different about working within a card-based collaboration world?
So see, we were looking for this digital representation of a context, right? I think in today's world, maybe there are already people using cards for that. But when we started 5 years ago with the product, there was actually nothing in the Microsoft ecosystem that could capture context naturally. There was this email, but email is like a snapshot of it's like a picture, photo. But what we need is more something that changes with the time. It's like a movie, and we need to capture that. So card from the Kanban system was something that inspired us, right? So, and card has two sides. It has a front side and a back side. And card has also something that comes from the physical world. So if you take a card, it has physical limitations. So you cannot put too much data on it because then you don't have the space. So we found out that like in the Darwin world, where the survival of the fittest applies, right? So the idea was, how can we apply the Darwin ideology on information? Like, what would be the survival of the fittest information? So what does an information need to survive? It needs space. So if we will limit it, artificially by a card, like saying you only can have so many notes and so much stuff and so on, it will probably lead to this moment where people say like, I will only put the most important information. So I will filter before I enter. And only this, like everyone is doing that. It's like ants, like everyone is doing a piece of that. Suddenly, you only have the most important information in the context.
It made me. So another way to think about this. So some of my background, maybe this partially dates me back in the data warehousing world, and is that that the bigger the data set gets, your database gets, the more unmanageable the overall content is. And so I would go and do this for customers. I worked I was living in California, and I worked for Pacific Bell, actually the parent company, Pacific Telesis Shared Services Organization, part of Pacific Telesis. So this was the phone company for the Western US. And so the databases were massive. And so I would work with our user groups, and they would, with our power users within the company, and they would say, well, we've got this subset of data, but to get the intelligence, the value that we need to go and join it to these other pieces of data. And so we would go and take subsets of the data. We would, from each of those systems, join them together so they get that complete view. Because we couldn't just go and create one massive database. Maybe you could do that now, and actually the database size, that was nothing. I think that some of the databases that we dealt with back then, I have a little external drive that I use only for music that's larger than some of those databases. Yeah. But, that concept is, it gets unwieldy by having all the information, and it needs to be, and then you don't want one database to do everything that you're doing. You want it to be contextual, so in context, and it's relevant, the core pieces of information to move that activity forward. So that's one thing about that card-based interface, is that there's certain things that it has, like a KanBo card, where you have the participants in that activity, that card. So I might create a card that is, let's create this video, and it has Michael, you and I that are on it. It has start date, end date, our progress on that. And then, but I think one of the most powerful things is that social aspect of it is that persistent, the conversation, having all of that stored in the card itself, not having to jump over to another place to have a conversation about what we're doing in the card.
Exactly. I mean, that's the power of the context. So we always say, like, when you work on a document, I mean, for 1 kilo of a document, you need 100 kilo conversation around it. How do you capture that? How do you make use of that information? How many times do you ask the same questions all over again? Because they are, if you have a huge stream like they used to have in the newsfeed and SharePoint, I mean, when it's gone from your screen, it's gone.
Right.
And we see that as a big danger. Another thing that the card has, like, so if you are in the back on the card, you've got like elements like who is involved, users, right? But I mean, what I don't like about many systems that are on the market is like, who is responsible for this card? I mean, there can be many people involved in this card, whatever this card is. Maybe it's a conference
like
organization.
The task itself, yeah. Right? But who owns the card?
Yeah, exactly. Who owns the bigger context, which is the card, and like, who shall I ask if the card is becoming late or is becoming critical or whatever? I mean, there are 5 people on the card, but who is the boss? Who is the big tall? And
right.
that's the big tall was why we create this picture of the responsible one is a big one, and the other is a small one. So you automatically know who is the responsible one.
Right.
So for example, if you take the middle of the card, where we put the stream, we call it the card activity stream. Mm-hmm. It consists not only of conversations, but only of this, we call it the mechanical actions, like who created the card, who moved the card from status A to status B, right. Or even you can move the card between boards, like between contexts, like someone has done it. Why? Right. Someone says like this task is ready, but it wasn't ready.
But then, it captures that activity. That whole concept of that news feed view. So not just what you and I are, what you're pointing here, yeah. what you and I are discussing there. We're typing up our notes as we're working on maybe a list of the tasks to complete this card, this activity. Mm-hmm. But then it also, what happens if it moves? Because it's another aspect of that, knowing the context of where that card fits in a project. In an overall, in a process.
That's higher context.
Right. But then when I move it over and say, well, it's now let's say it's in the to-do column, and I've moved it over into the in progress column. Well, that change from to-do to in progress, that also is then captured within that news feed.
Yeah, like who did it and when he did it.
Right.
I mean, also if you have, I mean, this is very simplistic, like doing down and waiting and all the stuff that comes from Kanban. But I mean, imagine you using the lists for departments, and I mean, you are having a process, and the card is an applicant that goes through the process. So like we are now done with this applicant when we move the card as an applicant to the next department for clearing the security. And there is a task list that of all the clearing subtasks, right? So everybody sees what is the progress, who has done what, who has accepted what. But this is, let's say, we are working and we are using the system to capture information and jumping between, now I have to do this applicant, so I go there and this. But I mean, on the other side, look how to consume now information. It's not like you get all the information about all the tasks from this one project. I mean, imagine what will happen then. You will be Facebook and having 10,000 friends, like bling, 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 going like this. No, I mean, there are only 3 cards that are critical to you, and only these you follow. That means that the stream produced by all the cards will be sent to you whenever something changes. Someone adds a comment, adds a user, changes a date, whatever, because you chose to. So the context has not only the power of keeping it very, very crisp and informative, so we don't have to repeat information, but on the other hand, it also generates a laser beam stream of information that you chose to consume. Right. And this is so powerful because you suddenly can control how much information you can process, and this freedom is up to you. If you follow too many cards, you are the control freak. You get too many notifications. You have to go down. So you see, the art of moderation, you have to find the right level and then keep it. So that's basically what we made out of the card. The card is becoming actually a beautiful container for context, and you know, the old visualization stuff. So you see the cards, you can move them like physical cards and stuff like that. This is so natural to users. I mean, you use them, you know, you look at their screens, so many post-its, this is important, and that is important, and so on. Great. For that, you have the My Board, right? But I mean, people are using cards already in the physical world, so you don't have to explain the user interface.
Right. Yeah. You know, if I could show you, Michael, my desktop here, and even though I have the technology, and this is just you know, part of the way that I work, is that I have, you know, sticky pads. I've got notes. I'm a list guy, and so, you know, this is why you know, early on I was, you know, years ago I was you know, a fan of like on the wall, the Kanban list, like that model, that agile method of, you know, creating here's our process. Here are the stages of the process to move a project forward, and then putting the various activities in sticky notes. And I did this as a project management, you know, management methodology of tracking this. And so as something moved forward or assignments were made, and moved the stickies over, and it's the same concept of, and that's why I became a fan of, you know, the Kanban list management. And, you know, I use tools like Trello, and of course you've got now in Office 365 and Teams, you have the planner type thing, but also looking at, you know, project management capabilities in general, is that they can get so complex, and having the cards as the right context to it allows you to be organized in it. And one of the things I also love is that the ease of use to go and create a card that you're even unsure of. Is this a task? It allows you to vet that, to talk with the team, to assign people, start vetting that. And first, you then have a discussion, say, no, this is actually what it needs to look like, make changes, or remove that card, or add 5 others around it in relationship with that. So it allows you to be very collaborative and like
in a natural way.
In the sticky posts, it's easy to go and put them up there, to think about it, visualize it, because as you and I know, I mean, through experience, is that when you can visualize what needs to be done, it's not just the written word. There's power in the visualization of the flow of these activities and the order in which you have to go and just grab a card and change the order in which you're running through these activities.
So simple, right? So
right.
Simple.
It's very powerful in communicating what needs to be done with the team.
Yeah. I mean, I always, in the beginning of KanBo, when I talk to customers, I use this example, like if you are working in woods, like in Canada and so on, and you know, your child comes to you and is like, Daddy, what did you do today? And you can say like, look, you see those 3 trees? I just saw them down, and this is what I did, you know? You can already visualize that. And I mean, if you're an office guy and your child asks like, what did you do, Daddy? I mean, I don't know. I answered 40 emails and I had 10 calls and 5 meetings. Yeah, but what have you done?
Right.
And now you look at KanBo board and it's like, look, all the cards. This is what I've done. Every time you move a card to done, you can say like, okay, now I get a coffee. I need a little reward. You know, this is what human beings need.
Right.
Something like accomplishment.
Right.
You know,
well, something else that I think is really powerful too is that, so I'm trying to remember the year. When did we first meet at that Berlin event? I was speaking at that user group. Was that 2013, 2014? I don't remember. But so when I first saw, you know, KanBo, and you came out and gave me a demo of that, but I think it's important too, where you showed me what was like on the on-prem versus the cloud version of that, and also the mobile version of that. And another value to that card experience is that sometimes I might be sitting at my workstation. Now I might be on the road with my laptop, or I might only have my mobile phone. So to have to go and log into a system and dig through reports and lists and databases to close out tasks, or to know what's next on my schedule to go and do, it can be very complex. It's just not very mobile friendly, flexible, that user interface.
It doesn't fit our times.
Right.
Chris. I mean, the notification stream you get out of, because you chose to follow for a certain context, it gives you like a digest of what happened since you were away, and a digest in a way you designed. I mean, you designed the digest. Nobody else does it for you. And
exactly. But then I can go directly into that card. And that was my point there, is that I can, no matter where I am, I can go then into that. I get a notification based on what I've set up. I can go into that card that has that defined space, that context. I could go in there, and now we're doing Madonna.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I mean, we are all in the box.
But to go in there and then close out those tasks. And I thought that was one of the more powerful aspects of what you showed me back then, and it's even more true now, where like you were ahead of the curve of where overall collaboration has been going. This whole digital workplace, the card-based interface, being able to go in and be focused on the task at hand and my role in that, and the input that I need to be and work flexibly from wherever I am, however I'm accessing that is so key to having that right context and being productive as an individual.
Yeah, but also in a group. I mean, right. If you leave the office, the world doesn't stand still. I mean, people are still working, maybe in another location.
Well, maybe a little bit stand still if I leave the office, but yeah.
Okay, of course. But people will, maybe at 12 o'clock I have an idea and I don't want to forget it, so I just go to the card, and when I'm at the mobile, I just type in the idea, and someone in the morning will see it and react to it and so on. But where will he look for this idea? He will look in the context that he's working in. So, if I put it into a stream in the morning, people will say, all this blah, blah in the morning, it disappears. So it needs to be focused. So people, after a while, I mean, we see that at customers, this card user interface makes you rely that people will place the information into the right contexts. In the beginning, it's pretty hard because you have to think first where you put the information, the question, the answer, or whatever. But after a while, you get used to it, and when I want this detail to know, then I will go to this board, and in this board to this card or to this list, and then I will follow or whatever. And then I can. This is it. This is my agent. It will send me information about this topic all the time until I say I don't want to. I don't want to.
Right, and it's also makes it very apparent what information or what people are missing to complete that task, to close that card, that activity. By putting it all in context, so you could even have that as part of the dialogue. We could be talking, it's like, look, we can't do this unless we have Steven, his participation. We need him on this. Let's invite him into this task. He may then come in and say, hey, you're missing some of the project data to make this decision to close this out. So you have all that focused collaboration around this card, and then can close that out. We agree, hey, we're done. This is finished. Here's the output. The next step, close out that card, mark it as complete. You then have the history of, and we know what we've gone through. We can see the past steps and where we are at the next step.
The card is archived, but all the information the card captured, it's there forever. And if you now take all the cards that were produced during this project, archived or not, then if you take these streams and put them together, then you have the history of the project from the very beginning, and everything, breathing in, breathing out, every tool, everything, every change of a document, everything is captured. So if you have to go to you have a lawsuit against something, you just pull out the data, scroll in time, and say look, at this time we took this decision and it was made by this and this guy. I mean, I think there's no other system at the moment that can capture a context, during a period of time at a single place like KanBo can, right? So this is another side effect of the story. So,
I appreciate it. I think it's a big topic around card-based collaboration. It is the way that our environments are moving forward. It's a key component of the digital workplace. And Michael, thanks a lot for your time talking about it today.
Yeah, welcome. Always a pleasure.